In nearly every 3D game, Minecraft included, you must go both downwards and upwards at one point or another. Whether it be to traverse terrain or simply by jumping or gesturing, your height will shift in one way or another. In Minecraft, changing your altitude is crucial. To mine, you have to mine downwards. To go high with your elytra, you fly upwards. And it's the second part of that which we'll be focusing on today, going up. Playing Minecraft for a substantial amount of time, one will undoubtedly go upwards tens, if not hundreds of thousands of blocks. Not all at a time, of course, but overall. That said, when it comes to bases or building or just overall transportation, sometimes one has to scale certain heights to reach an endpoint, and generally you would want to do that as fast as possible. You may think that your piston elevator or minecart rail or even your staircase is the fastest way to go up, but is that really true, and what could you be missing out on? And that leads us to the question of today's video. Out of all the ways to go upwards in Minecraft Survival, which one is the fastest and most effective? Is it towering, block stacking, ladders, flying machines, or something completely different? Notice I said survival, so TNT cannons and flying won't be included. However, with all that said, let's begin the video. I hope you enjoy, and please do consider subscribing if you do, it would mean the world to me. Starting off with the basics. Generally, to measure vertical speed, we will be timing how long it takes a method to either go up 32 blocks or 64 blocks, and then converting it into blocks/meters per second. Additionally, I will stop the clock when your feet land on the correct Y level, so if you go above it or into a ceiling, I'll wait for you to be stationary. Let's get some of the simple methods out of the way first. Also, leave a comment letting me know what you think the fastest method is before you watch any further. I'm curious to know your thoughts. Block stacking, or just pillaring upwards 64 blocks, took me 31.76 seconds, which may not seem very slow, but it very much is. It translates to 2.02 meters per second, and is probably one of the slowest methods today. However, when I block stack, I always begin to question if it would be faster if I jitter clicked or timed my jumps, so I just have to test it. After doing a timing-oriented ascension, I got 30.40 seconds, so 1 second faster, totaling at 2.11 meters per second. Not much of a difference, but I'm still happy there was one because it proved my point. Going up a pre-made staircase of blocks, I was able to get 29.44 seconds and clock in at 2.17 meters per second. Spreading the blocks out, I was able to complete 32 blocks in 14.56 seconds and raise my speed barely to 2.2. Not too shabby, but not too much of an improvement either. Doing the exact same staircase but with speed 2, it didn't really make much of a difference because I had to keep strafing to avoid falling off the blocks, actually resulting in a slower time, funnily enough, by 4 centiseconds. Going up actual stairs seemed to be very promising, and it only took 11.4 seconds to go up that height, thus coming in first so far with a vertical speed of 5.61 meters per second. Not too bad at all. However, I was able to increase the speed even further by timing my jumps up the stairs. For those of you who don't know, jumping upstairs actually increases your speed, and I was able to shave off 3 seconds and get 7.73 meters per second while stair jumping. But why stop there? Mixing in speed 1, I was able to shave off 1 second and get 8.6 meters per second. With speed 2, that increased to 8.84. Ladders are disappointingly slow, and you don't even have to test them because in the Minecraft wiki, it says they take players upwards at 2.5 meters per second. We can assume this assumption holds true for the other climbable blocks like vines, nether vines 2, and scaffolding. Contrary to what I would assume, Jump Boost totally flopped. I specially designed this pillar to maximize the potential of Jump 1, and it still took 26.84 seconds to get up 64 blocks, or a measly 2.38 meters per second. Jump Boost 2 seemed barely any more useful, and got 2.1991 meters per second. Barely noticeable. A minecart on a fully powered track is actually somewhat fast, taking 7.41 meters per second. Decent, but not as fast as stairs. Water streams are also somewhat fast, taking exactly 10 seconds to ascend 64 blocks, or totaling 6.4 meters per second. But that's the simple methods, and the leaderboard currently consists of stair speed 2 at the top, followed by stair speed 1, regular stair jumping, minecarts, and finally basic water streams. And now, time to swap dimensions. The end dimension can provide us with a few crafty ways to travel upwards, but we'll see if any of them can surpass staircase jumping with speed 2. To get this out of the way, shulkers are incredibly slow. It's funny how slow they are. And their levitation is the slowest method I found ever, totaling at a minuscule 0.9 meters per second as listed in the Minecraft wiki. Another dud method was chorus hopping. In my jump height video, I talked about chorus jumping as a way to get extra height, but in this case, the time it takes for the fruit to actually work is so long, it can't be considered reliable at all. Throwing ender pearls in a sort of stairway fashion takes 8.8 seconds to climb 32 blocks, or a pretty slow 3.6 meters per second. Setting up an ender tower fit with ladders and string bumps that time to a whopping 13 meters per second, getting up 64 blocks in only 4.92 seconds and taking the new #1 spot. Sadly, the title is quickly taken away by none other than the Elytra. Even counting the time to do the initial jump before the wings activate, it still took me 2.2 seconds to get up 32 blocks, or 15 meters per second. Those of you more familiar with the game know that adding extra gunpowder gives you longer firework duration, so I was curious to see if longer firework duration rockets were actually faster. But alas, longer duration seemed to be just that, longer duration. And after testing what both Power 2 and Power 3 rockets, they both actually had slower times because the time I would spend crammed into the ceiling waiting for the rocket to run out. Because of this, I'll count the Elytra rockets as one category with the fastest time so far. Horses, an integral part of our Minecraft jumping video, now come into play yet again as a crucial piece for this video. Horses auto-run up 1 block heights, and pitting a horse against a 1 block staircase that for reference took 14.5 seconds last time only took 3.4 seconds now, getting a decent speed of 9.41 meters per second. Horses can also spawn out random speeds, so for the purposes of this video, I command spawned a horse with the maximum possible natural speed. Yeah, the staircase is pretty fast, but that's definitely not all. After doing some digging, I found a video by Exumavoid showcasing this horse ladder. Here it is. It's kind of spectacular, really. It looks so cool. It's a specifically designed route fit for horses to go upwards as fast as possible. The results were more than disappointing. It took 14.92 seconds to go up 64 blocks, only scoring 4.29 meters per second total. This was because the notable inefficiency of the design. This outdated design would keep the horse getting stuck over and over, and some strafing would be required to get it further, but I was sure there was some potential here, so after tinkering with it a little, I made my own custom horse ladder. Obviously my block choices were more modern, and you don't have to use the ender chest or nether brick walls, but that was just for aesthetic, and it definitely doesn't change that my modern version is far more efficient. My horse ladder took 5.84 seconds to go up 65 blocks, thus clocking in at 11.13 meters per second, our new third best time. Pretty okay. However, once more, there is still one deus ex machina for the horses. Cakes. A seemingly useless block actually proved to be essential to get the new #1 time. For whatever reason, I must point out that cakes can only be in one direction, making this kind of ladder impractical, but if you needed a ladder in a specific direction, and you have an excess of cakes, this is the design for you. I was able to breeze past 64 blocks in 3.4 seconds with this cake ladder, the same time it took for a horse to do 32 blocks on a regular staircase, thus doubling that speed and earning our new highest time at 18.82 meters per second. Also, this cake ladder is so satisfying to climb, I could do it for absolute 8. Tridents. A tool intended for combat purposes provides some interesting potential for ascending in Minecraft with the Riptide enchantment. First, I wanted to test if Riptide 1 was slower than Riptide 2, and same with Riptide 3. To test this, I found the max height for Riptide 1 around 13 blocks, and then shot up with it. It only took 0.96 seconds to get up those 13 blocks, thus earning a pretty solid score of 13.54 meters per second. Riptide 2 is actually slightly faster, unlike the Elytra fireworks, and clocked in at 0.72 seconds, or 18.06 meters per second. Continuing the trend, Riptide 3 was able to shave off 12 centiseconds, earning the new #1 spot on our leaderboard with 21.67 meters per second. However, do keep in mind that this height was only 13 blocks, not our usual 32 or 64, thus giving an unfair advantage to the Riptide 1 as it was given a perfect stage. So to make sure to test it out for fairness, I pitted a Riptide 1 Trident against a Riptide 3 to see which one would do 32 blocks faster. The Riptide 1 required much more water sources, so it was only able to get 7.41 meters per second this time, pretty much more accurate. The Riptide 3, however, exceeded its previous speed and managed to get 32 blocks in only 1.12 seconds, that's so fast, or 28.57 meters per second. One can explain this by saying that with Riptide 3, I did end up hitting my head a tiny bit more, just like the Elytra firework example, but on a lower scale, wasting some time. However, this isn't the end for Riptide, and using a special design by Cubfan135 and combining an Ender Pro with a Trident, I was able to go a whopping 251 blocks in just 7.68 seconds, or soar with 32.81 meters per second. Also in my run, I did hesitate on the second throw, and in his video, Cubfan did it in only 6.43 seconds, or 39 meters per second total, so I'll take his number instead. And finally, elevators. Crucial in the real world and just as cool as Minecraft, there are many different types and more continue to be made as we speak. I made this little flying machine elevator, and while it does look super cool as I ride it, it is insanely slow and took 15.4 seconds to climb up 32 blocks, tying for our second slowest time of 2.02 meters per second, just in front of Shulkers, which, let's be honest, isn't saying much at all. On a brighter note, however, the Soul Sand Water Elevator was able to sadly make up for its brother's disappointing performance and get 32 blocks in 3.2 seconds, or 10 meters per second on the dot. However, the time it took for me to get out of the elevator cost me a bit, and referencing the Minecraft wiki, the speed can be bumped up to 11 meters per second instead. A slime block Minecraft elevator by Woolly Creeper seems to look crazy fun, but is actually pretty slow, taking 3.48 seconds to go up 30 blocks, or 8.62 meters per second in total. So, you may think that's that. Elevators are cool and all, but they're just not that fast, only for show. And Cubfan's elevator, quote elevator, is definitely the fastest one out there. Well, think again. I think it's beautiful how a design more than 5 years old can still manage to take the #1 spot, showing that sometimes newer is definitely not better. And that design is, of course, a minecart elevator. Minecart elevators are insanely cheap and only require stacking minecarts on ladders and right-clicking to go up. My first run, it took 1 second to reach the top, 34.65 blocks, and then an extra 2.2 seconds to realize that I got to the top and dismount, getting me 35 blocks total, and thus earning 34.65 meters per second, or 10.8 meters per second counting dismount, whichever way you like to think about it. But I wasn't satisfied with this run because I knew I could go faster and react faster to being at the top. So on run number 2, I was able to get 0.88 seconds on the way up, and then an extra 36 centiseconds to dismount, totaling to 1.24 seconds, or 39.325 meters per second on the way up, and 28.23 meters per second if you count my dismount. Super duper fast. And finally, on run 3, I was able to up that time yet again. I only took 0.68 seconds to rise, and 1.12 seconds total, counting the dismount and the rise, or a total of 51 meters per second upwards, and 28.57 counting the dismount. So with 51 meters per second topping our leaderboard, the final standings are now in place on screen, showing the top 5 best methods for going up in Minecraft. There may be other methods and ways that I forgot, so be sure to let me know in the comments below. However, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it helped, I hope you enjoyed it, I hope you learned something, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you so much, do consider subscribing, it would mean the world to me, and peace out. Have a good one.